Hello everybody and welcome to the UKEndZone Daily Football Podcast. Saturday the 16th of August, probably the only international podcast or any football podcast that's coming out on a Saturday. They don't really do that. Joining me again, we said we get him on regularly, is the boss man David Bossley. David, how's it going?
Not too bad, man. Not too bad. How's yourself?
I'm doing really well, and today we're going to talk about something that needs to be discussed. They've been talking about it a lot themselves. It's cornerbacks. They're all saying they're the best in the game. Even guys like D. Milliner from your Jets are saying they're the best in the game. So we need to figure out who is the best cornerback in pro football.
Well, I can give you the answer just now, but that would sort of be spoiling the ending, I suppose. Promise you that it's definitely not D. Milliner.
We're going to go through a list of the best cornerbacks. David's come up with a top 5 list, and we're going to take a look at them. I'm going to get outraged, and that's how we're going to roll it.
Okay. Start with number 5 then.
Let's do it.
Number 5 is your guy from the University of Florida, from those Cleveland Browns, Joe Hayden.
You know, I love Joe Hayden, and I've said many times I think he is the best cornerback in pro football. And you know, we spoke just before we came on, and was I going to get outraged that Joe Hayden wasn't your number one guy? Not really. You can throw him up in any different way. There's like 4 or 5 elite guys. It's the same with the quarterbacks with Rodgers, Manning, Brady. Take your pick. They're all terrific. They're all great, so take whichever one you want. The reason I prefer Joe Hayden is, one, because I'm a technician. I love cornerback play, which is a weird thing for people to enjoy, but I do. And I think he's the best and most technically sound cornerback in the game. He comes from the University of Florida. That gives him some more brownie points. But I think he could be the best in any system that you put him in. He's predominantly a zone guy, but I do think he can man up. He struggles at the line. He needs to have more weight. But I just think he's great. And I think the other guys that are going to come on the list, a lot of their greatness, and they are great, comes to do with the scheme, as it does with all of football. But the Browns have been so haphazard in Joe Hayden's time there that you can't put the scheme down as what's made him a great player.
No, absolutely. Hayden, technically, he is fantastic. He's got everything you need to be a great cornerback in the league. Otherwise, he wouldn't be in the top 5. I think he is slightly overrated by some who do put him in the top 1 or 2 category. As you say, there's not an awful lot to choose between the top 5, so I won't get too hung up on that. But of all of the guys who are in that top list, he does get beaten a more concerning number of times. He does
lack the top end speed. I mean, it's not even like you can't even have an opinion on that. He isn't as quick as any of the other guys, so that's why it lends himself to playing in the zone. And when he mans up, he can get burnt. But he's just such a talented guy, and I just love him. So he's my number 1 guy. But you know, I'm not going to begrudge having him at 5.
He's a great player. The major concern I have with Joe Hayden, as you said, he struggles at the line. He cannot mirror a receiver. He takes too many steps to turn round, and he has been beaten underneath a couple of times when he's playing up against a vertical threat who has the home run speed. He's not even watching a lot of the time. He's backpedaling before he's even waiting to see what happens. He turns his back on some guys. They can cut across underneath, and they can burn him for huge yardage.
I do know this about Joe. I've not spoke to anyone since he's been at Cleveland, so I got no idea whether he's changed and matured as a lot of them do. But I know at Florida he had a massively lackadaisical. Is that the word, editor? Lackadaisical? That's the right word.
I would say that's probably right. Yeah.
He had a massive lackadaisical attitude. That probably comes with being in Florida and being at the University of Florida, where you don't have to attend class apparently, and that probably helps him being a football superstar. But I know he's a very relaxed guy, and at times in the NFL, I think he switches off often, and he can't be doing that. So that he needs to improve that. I'm making a case here for him not being the best cornerback in football, but let's not mistake it. All these 5 guys are exceptional. We're splitting hairs, and it's a preference. Take your pick, and he's my guy.
Okay. Number 4, he's my second, maybe my third favourite guy, unless I would really love to have him at number 3, but he is definitely number 4 for me. Is Alteron Werner.
Yeah, it's terrific. Another guy who plays in zone. See, what happens is with the cornerbacks when you're ranking them, you'll find as you get to that top end in most people's rankings, it's the guys who play man to man up on the line, because we just see them have more of an impact. I really think we do, because we see them up at the line, we see them tussling. They'll often come up with more picks because they're playing on the man. And the same with Werner, a guy who played in a predominant zone scheme. Now he's going to the ultimate zone scheme. He could be the best cornerback in football by the time we redo this list next year, just because he's in such a perfect scheme fit now, and he's already in a good one, but he's playing with Lovey now. He's going to be great.
For me, he's got the best ball skills of any of the guys on this list.
No doubt.
His interception numbers are only going to improve. He's a big play guy, which seems to be the flavour of the league just now. So I think we are going to see a move. People who like Richard Sherman, I think they're going to absolutely love what they see from Werner in the next year. he's gonna have multiple turnovers. He's gonna look like an absolute superstar this year.
I think what people underestimate about Werner, and it's the same thing with Aqib Talib, I don't know if he's made the list, but similar sort of thing, they're leaders, not through talking, but they really help stuff the run, and they are big, powerful players. And, when you're playing like middle linebacker, and you see the cornerback come off the edge and just rock someone in a run play, it garners so much respect for the players that aren't just dropping back in zones and just trying to pick the ball off and read the quarterback's eyes. You can build so much respect in a team by being physical, and if we know anything about Lovie Smith's defense, they're going to be physical, they're going to play in zone. I just can't think of a better spot for him. By next year, I'll probably be saying he's the best in the game.
I would have no problem with that whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to number 3. Number 3, I've got the darling of the month, the Madden cover boy, Richard Sherman.
And I think that's fair, and he'll be at number 1 in most people's lists. And again, splitting hairs people over the top 5, and particularly this top 3 band. It is almost another band in most people's eyes. And I love Richard. I think he's great, but again, he doesn't have the top end speed, and he always plays the short side of the field. It's not like he just chooses a man and matches up against him all day. It's not like he just chooses one side of the field and will dominate the left side of the field all day. They put him on the short side to make up for the shortcoming of the speed, and he plays with the 2 best safeties in the game.
It might not be fair, but for me, he is definitely a hurt in his individual stock just by playing in that unreal secondary. But you're absolutely right. He doesn't have the top end speed. He's a huge guy, physical specimen, absolutely fantastic. I think he will struggle a little bit this year with the rule changes. I think there would have been more. I think he would have been in double digits extra penalties if this proposed rule changes to defensive holding and illegal touching was put into place. But you can say that about any of these guys, particularly if they are covering man. He's again a turnover machine, very, very aggressive at the line. He will always come up with the highlight play for you, but the flip side of that is that he will occasionally get burned as well, because it's not going to work every time.
And Richard does himself a slight disservice because he's so physical, and because people see him being with the rah-rah attitude and talking about himself all the time. He's one of the most articulate, cleverest players. I don't think that's a word. I just called someone cleverest, David.
Clever, it's fine. You're absolutely fine with cleverest.
Okay then, I'm going to go with intelligent, make myself sound smart. He's one of the most intelligent guys in the league away from football, but he's also an unbelievable technician. Him and Hayden are 1A and 1B. He's hand placement, perfect, fluidity, perfect. There's nothing about his game that you can have a knock on except for the top end speed, and they found a way to overcome that. And it's not a knock saying, oh, he only plays the short side of the field. It's not like I'm saying that we should drop him down a massive peg. He's so overrated because he only plays one side. It's just butting you to your skill set. That's what a scheme is, and making him excel with that great skill set he has, and that's what makes him so dominant.
It's another mark of the great coaching they've got in Seattle, that they can see what they've got and know how to get the best out of them.
Well, they have the best secondary coach in football, and Pete Carroll. There's no one else like him. He's unbelievable.
If only he could have done anything close to that at the Jets or the Patriots, I suppose. Yeah, number 2 on the list. He's just been given his monster contract. He's got his bragging rights now. It's Patrick Peterson.
Best athlete in football. I mean, to return kicks, to play some offense last year. I know they said they're going to stop that this year. I don't think they will. I think that sometimes you'll see him come out on offense. Week to week, they'll probably make that decision. But just an unbelievable physical specimen. Insane speed, Olympic, world-class speed. Good technician as well by his own rights, but just so aggressive, and just the speed is really the key to his game.
No, absolutely. He's, as you say, he is the best athlete in pro football. It's fast becoming the opinion of everyone across the league as we start to see more and more of him. Mm-hmm. I realise there's a high propensity for injuries on return plays, but if you're winning the game, absolutely fine. But if you're down in the game and you're needing a spark from somewhere, I would be more than happy to line him up back there, because he is absolutely electric. He's a threat to take it to the house if he's got the ball in his hands, and that's if he's intercepted it or if he's returning the ball. He's as close as anyone I've seen in the last 5 years to what Revis can do in terms of the way he will follow the team's top wide receiver around the field. He's not quite what I would call an island, the way that the Revis is. He does still get an awful lot of help from linebackers and safeties, but he will go toe to toe with the best receiver on the other team and try and take him out of the game. And he's very deserving of his money, and he's got the talent to be head and shoulders above the rest of the guys if everything goes his way.
No doubt, and one of the greatest speakers again in all of football, great leader, and the guy who has almost got semi-GM duties at times for the Cardinals. He speaks for the Cardinals now. I know people obviously are always going to love Larry Fitzgerald, and when I said he was the face of the franchise the other day on the UKEndZone football program, I got to stick on Twitter. He is the new age of the Cardinals, and he will at one day be the general manager probably of the Cardinals once he's been a Cardinal for life. And the money he got has probably got something to do with the fact that he is that guy for the Cardinals going forward. They selected Tyrann Mathieu because of him. They selected the guy in the 7th round this year because of him. I mean, the guy is running part of that organization. This is how good of a player he is, one, good of a person, two, and just what makes him just so spectacular. And you're right with what you say with the swapping sides of the field. They swap their cornerbacks basically every play, matching guys up, just constantly rotating sides of the field, whereas the Seahawks, it's part of what makes them great, is they just say to the guys, this is your side, and we're never moving, we're just going to be great in what we do.
No, absolutely. Peterson as well, I think he's going to get an awful lot of love because we're going to see an awful lot more of the Cardinals. Yeah. It's another one of these defenses which is great. People talk an awful lot about the copycat league and what the Seahawks have done with their defense winning the Super Bowl in that dominant fashion. I think it would be a little bit harsh to say that the Cardinals are a result of a copycat. It's almost like they've been doing the same things at the same time. Yeah. They've just not had the same success so far. They were definitely on that track long before Seattle won their Super Bowl. But the defenses in that division are looking scary right across the board.
Oh, it's obscene. That front seven in St. Louis is so scary, and it was before. And they went and got Aaron Donald. It was this ridiculous defenses in that division.
And that brings us to number one. I've hinted, and I've hinted at it already, and there's probably no one else that it could be at this point. He's still clear number one for me, and that's Darrelle Revis.
I mean, I love to hear it as a Patriots fan and coming from a former Jets guy. It's nice to hear, but I just don't know. I really don't. He looked very shaky coming off that ACL last year. Just looked like he didn't have the trust in his leg anymore. And I don't know if I would trust my leg initially to put all the weight and the weight distribution that he used to that made him so great. He was just perfect at everything. That's what made him Darrelle Revis. But when you're getting torched in training camp by Jeremy Maclin, it's not great. I'm not going to blow it out of proportion, like, a big first take segment, like Skip and Stephen A, and be like, he's done. But, it still isn't great, and again, it's one of those guys who is accustomed to not really going all out in training camp, is the way of putting it, because when you're so great, you don't really need to. It's not really for you, and then turn it on when the lights are on. But when you're in a new situation, when you're with the Patriots, and you're trying to get back to who you are, I'd like to see him be all out every play in training camp as if the lights were on.
I did actually expect that we might see that this year, because he seems absolutely determined now that he's back in the AFC East to try and dispel the image that he had of playing for the cash. Mm-hmm. He's definitely got facts on his side this time after watching all the deals that the rest of the cornerbacks are getting. He's actually one of the underpaid ones at this point in his career. But he's a big play guy. When the lights are on, that's exactly what you're going to get. There was some stick now on him last year that he wasn't 100% healed, coming back off of his injury, but actually watching tape, he doesn't look like he's lost a step to me, except on maybe the odd play. Definitely not for a whole game at any point last year. He's also been played completely the wrong way last year. They're trying to make him play zone. He is the best pressed man cover corner in the league, bar none. There is no receiver that I have any fear that he will not be able to cover. He held Calvin Johnson to one catch for 17 yards in a game. The only thing that Revis doesn't have that the rest of the guys do have are the elite ball skills to go and pick up the interception and run it back. Mm-hmm. But to be honest, that's just a mark of how absolutely brutally efficient that he is. I mean, it's great if Richard Sherman comes up, he jumps a route, he grabs the ball and he's in the end zone, but you know what, that's 6 points. If Darrelle Revis can take a team's top weapon out of the game, he's essentially holding them to 0 on his own. He gets no support from anywhere else on the field, or at least he doesn't need any. Any he does get is going to be a bonus. And the Patriots defense, all in all, is looking much improved from last year. I think you're going to see a proper return to form from Revis, and there's going to be no question.
Well, I hope so, and you're inspiring confidence in me, you really are. And you're right with what you said. It was so bizarre that last year they had, you said he's the best press corner in the NFL. He might be the best of all time, and people don't get on me for Deion Sanders, because obviously Deion was great, but in his prime, I mean, he was just unbelievable. Everything he does is 100% perfect. There's nothing you can look at him and say that's technically just not right. Everything is 1000% perfect. So I can't question it. I only have the fear because of the ACL. That's my only fear.
Well, the injury is always going to be the biggest concern. But you know what? The fact is, see, if someone goes out and they try and go after him in weeks 1 or 2, he's going to get the benefit of his reputation. See if he can hold it for 2 weeks. There's a very good chance that he'll go like a whole day without anyone even attempting to push him, just on the sheer basis of his reputation. There's no point in throwing the ball down that side of the field. It's a waste of a down.
And it's not even like, if anyone's seen the Brady 5, I think it is, or Brady 6 documentary about Tom Brady's career, it's not even the scheme or the play caller that necessarily moves from Revis. It's the quarterback themselves who are scared to death of Revis. It's not like the plays are drawn up where we're just going away from Revis like people think. It's more often than not on the fly with the quarterback. They try and find him on every single play, which takes out that millisecond of time that they need to be looking at elsewhere on the field.
And that division as well, that there isn't that great elite wide receiver that is going to even cause many problems.
Or quarterback.
We talked about this on the last show. The only sort of guy with that kind of reputation in the AFC East is Sammy Watkins in Buffalo. I'm not convinced of it just yet. Don't get me wrong, if he has a stormer of a performance, catches passes all over Revis and the Bills beat the Patriots, I'll be delighted with that. I'm not going to lie. Don't see it happening in a million years. But the Jets don't have anyone that can challenge Revis. The Dolphins don't have anyone that can challenge Revis. And I don't think the Bills do either.
Just before we go then, who was the people who were just outside? Was there anyone who you were like, sort of? Because these 5 guys, to me, are pretty cut and dry.
No, they are pretty cut and dry. It's the problem now, as you say, it's a pick your poison at the top. Aqib Talib that you mentioned definitely had a great year last year. It's harsh to say that the Patriots did well by getting rid of him, but the fact is Darrelle Revis is probably a step up. There's another couple of guys in the league I do think are worthy of mentioning in the same sort of breath. Rogers Cromartie, he had all the talent in the world coming out into the pros and didn't really seem to be able to do anything with it. He seems to finally have hit his stride. He seems to finally be taking things seriously and playing at a high level. So he would be another guy that's there. Brent Grimes in Miami is another guy that I think's good. Despite the fact that he had the ACL, Chris Harris at Denver is another guy who I would trust in the game. There's a ton of guys who would be outside, but I think it is a serious drop off after 5, maybe down to Aqib Talib, and then another drop off after Talib to the rest of the pack.
The only guy in that list that I really love is Brent Grimes. I think he's sensational. He's perennially underrated and underpaid by everyone, and the only reason why people I think were turned off to him is because he tore the Achilles, and people don't really come back from tearing Achilles, and he's come back looking even better. He's as good. The reason what makes the top 5 so great is that they can double move better than anyone. So that's why they can track people all the way down the field. It's what makes them so great, is they can double move where most cornerbacks can't, and they get beat like that young fella from Pittsburgh did in that video of Sammy Watkins. They can all double move, and Brent Grimes can double move as well as any of them. Actually, Cromartie's not too great at that, and that's where I think the drop-off really comes. The other guy I'd mention, who in 2 years' time is going to be getting paid like an elite guy and getting it talked about in that category of quote-unquote elite top 5 players, is Logan Ryan with New England. He's going to be sensational.
No, I hope he isn't, but it will be interesting to watch if he is.
We're going to have Revis and Ryan, and you're going to have Gino. Go figure.
Oh, don't depress me like that, man.
Alright, David, we're going to wrap this up. Saturday podcast. Well done us for getting it out on a Saturday. And I like the list is pretty perfect. I'd have had Hayden at the top, and it would have been Hayden and just bump everyone down one, I think.
Fair enough. Yeah, everyone's got their favourites.
Tweet us at UKEndZone. Let us know who you think the best cornerback in pro football is. It's a good discussion topic. I like that. We should do that more often.
Fair enough. I'm up for it.
Man, I'll speak to you next week.
You too. Bye.